Welcome back to We're Live, pal. Andrew Zarian and I, even up a few minutes early today. What's going on, man?
We were going to be a lot early, but we had some technical difficulties, so we're slightly early today.
Yeah, but we're finally able to congregate here and chit chat about some wrestling. You know, the one thing I was going to ask, but I am going to get to a plug real quick for the convention because I have some questions to ask you about this convention that we're doing in April. Your kids, when I was watching the Jey Uso thing where he wins the Royal Rumble, I immediately thought about your kids and how they would have responded to that. Because a lot of adults are very unhappy for whatever reason that Jey Uso won this match. And I go back to when I was at the second ever Netflix Raw in San Jose. We were talking to some people, and we noticed that there's just more kids than ever, or than there's been in a long time. And the couple of kids that we did talk to, Jey Uso was their favorite wrestler. And I was like, wow, that's really interesting. They didn't say John Cena. They didn't say Rey Mysterio. They didn't say CM Punk. It was Jey Uso. So through the eyes of your kids, like, what did they think about Jey Uso winning the Rumble?
They like Jey Uso, but they wanted Cena because Cena is like the end all be all, for that generation. Yeah. Like that's it's the equivalent. I don't know what that would be the equivalent of. It didn't exist, but like to me, that would probably be if I was my son's age and Bruno came back. And Bruno was put in a position where like everybody knew who he was. He wasn't erased. How would we have felt? They loved it though. They loved the Rumble. They loved the Women's Rumble. Again, it's a different category of viewership. But Jey Uso really connects with the younger generation, and that's the thing. When you're coming out with Travis Scott and Quavo, it says something. You're connected to a very different audience that you and I may not be.
Yeah, no, I mean, I get the Travis Scott connection. I get the Quavo connection. I was watching the Grammys this weekend, and I was noticing, like, oh, who's kind of, who's interesting right now for young people. Obviously, Kendrick wins Record of the Year. So there is an audience that I think connects with Jey Uso very well. I specifically have been calling for Jey Uso to gain some prominence for like the last 2 or 3 years, only because I just find him to be like the coolest dude. Like when you watch wrestling and you see like CM Punk or you see John Cena or you see Roman Reigns or you see Seth Rollins, those guys are almost like aliens in a sense. Like,
yeah.
Roman seems kind of cool actually, but he doesn't show a lot of his personality outside of wrestling.
Roman's cool,
but
Seth Rollins is an alien. I get it.
Yeah, he's like a weird dude. But
yeah.
When I see the Usos, when I see Jay and Jimmy, I go, oh, those are dudes I would have hung out with in high school. That's who those guys are to me. And same with maybe not Fatu, even though I have met Fatu before and have hung out with him for a few minutes. But Fatu just kind of reminds me of people in from my area. If we're going to a certain section of the Bay Area, I'm like, yep, that's Jacob Fatu right there. So to me, the Jey Uso seems to be someone who I'm like, oh, I would love to hang out with that dude and chit chat with him about whatever, because he's just a cool guy. And so that's how I perceive it. But again, when you're in this WWE where you have all of these possibilities, Cena, Punk, Drew McIntyre, Seth Rollins, Sami Zayn, Kevin Owens, Cody, and then they choose Jey to win this match, I thought it spoke a lot about their faith in what the current fan base, where they can also connect with the current fan base.
Jim Valley with the comment of the night. This is the worst OnlyFans ever.
I think Jim clicked on the wrong link is what happened.
Yeah, Jim. No. That's the other tab. That's the other tab on top of the browser. Not this one. The great Jim Valley. I gotta say though, you look at the characters and you're right. A lot of these characters are cartoons. And I do like that if he does beat Gunther, right, and Cody retains the title on his side, you have a contrast of very different people holding a title. I was talking to Joel Pearl from Fightful this morning about this, on how you look at Gunther and he's always in a suit and he's always, the dignified pro wrestling world champion. And Cody kind of represents that same exact thing, the heritage of professional wrestling. It's nice to have somebody that is a whole different character and look that appeals to a very different generation, like Jey Uso winning the title. I think this is a nice experiment. I don't know if he would have a successful world championship run, but I dude, they're so hot right now. Why not try it?
Yeah, this is what Dave and Brian were talking about last night, which is you're at a time and place in the current landscape of WWE where you can take these chances. Like, if they were desperate, if this was 3 years ago and they were desperate to connect and they were desperate to get fans back, maybe you don't take the big swing. Maybe you're a little bit more measured in it, especially for the Royal Rumble. And I think that that's probably what most of what the fan base is reacting to is, this is how the Royal Rumble is supposed to work, and you guys threw us a curveball, and now what we were thinking was going to happen is not happening. You can take these risks, and I don't even know how big of a risk it is, because Jey Uso himself, is he going to be your work rate world champion? Probably not, though he does have good matches. But guess who he beat in this match? Maybe the worst work rate champion that they've had, in a long time, in John Cena, and that's not a shot at John.
At the same time, the most successful world champion they've had. He's one of the most successful world champions this company has ever had. Bruno, Hogan, Austin, Dwayne, him.
Now there is a subsection of people who still believe that he was the chosen guy in a failed long-term experiment. Now, I don't know how much of that I believe, but I still hear from people who are like, nothing sunk WWE further and more quickly than them going with John Cena as the top guy for so many years. I mean, we'd have to sort of analyze that in a little. I understand the point, which is coming off of Austin and Rock and Triple H, you needed to make a new guy, and the audience was changing. And so then you lean into Cena, and then he's cheered immediately, but then soon the crowd is turning on him, and they don't adjust him to the crowd. They just keep giving you the same John Cena. I'm sure that turned off some fans. Would those fans have been turned off anyways?
I was one of those.
Were you really?
One of those fans. I was there. There is a. I'm trying to think what years this would be. Post Benoit, we've spoken about this. Post Benoit, I was very turned off. It just the air was sucked out of the room when you tune in, and then they shifted, they pivoted into the PG content, and I was out from like maybe 08, 09, 10, and then probably to 11, and I came back in 11. But I was still watching, but I was so turned off to it because I got tired of seeing John Cena as the guy. He did not appeal to me. He was not my era, but I also understood that, listen, every single kid that I knew at that point had a John Cena shirt on.
Yeah.
And that's what mattered. And they went to a whole different level. It was not good. The company was not good then. Is John Cena the reason for that? Was he the catalyst for it? I have to tell you, I felt the same about Randy Orton's title reign. I did not love Batista's title reign. I just think that the company was in a decline more than anything else.
Yeah, they were in the shadow of these giant stars, and you're trying to make new stars. And the fact of the matter is, the one who they really thought was going to be that guy was Brock Lesnar, but then he got burnt out and unhappy, and he bailed.
He left.
And so,
yeah, he left.
It wasn't Brock and Cena and Orton. It was just, Cena and Orton, and then Edge, kind of snuck back in. So, yeah, I don't know if I don't blame it entirely on John. There are some people,
but I totally
who think
understand
he's overrated. Yeah,
no, totally understand that. I totally understand that, and you're right. Generationally speaking, you and I came from a very different generation. Things went really fast, really aggressive, and then you were given, a cookie cutter Vince McMahon world champion to many people. Sometimes I felt that way. Sometimes I didn't. Sometimes you watch his matches and you think, man, he's so good, even though he doesn't do much. But it depends on what you're looking for. He's not a work rate guy, so he didn't have to be. Maybe that's why he's still wrestling now.
You know what book I'm reading is the 1984 Observer book that Dave put out last year. And you think about this, 1984.
I got it right here.
Think about how long ago that is, right? Think about how much wrestling has changed from then until now. It's like a completely different thing. I was reading one of the issues, and at this point, Dave's not even publishing weekly yet. I think he's still publishing every month. And do you know the guy who gets credit for the star rating system in wrestling?
No, who?
So Jim Cornette's friend, and I think also he was Dave's friend, a guy by the name of Norm Dooley. Dave said Norm Dooley gave out the first, not only created it, but also gave out the first +5 rating in rating matches. So this guy Norm Dooley, he's in the book as he's reading, and so he's writing. Dave used to publish notes from readers, and so I saw the name Norm Dooley in this book. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's the guy who created the star system. And then I texted Dave. I was like, what's going on with Norm Dooley? And Dave's like, I have no idea. So I think he's still around though. I don't know. I don't think anybody's been in contact.
I was just seeking. I was just trying to see, and it looks like he might be. I did not know that. That's a fun fact.
It's a fun fact. But anyway, so just thinking about the business that you and I have been covering and all the changes from the beginning, show number 1 of this show until now, it seems like it's changed. It's turned over completely. It's like such a different business. So then for me, going back and reading about 84, it's almost like a foreign language, but I'm getting a kick out of it. So, but it just shows you, how things change and what the Rumble was in 1992 when Ric Flair won it versus what you do with it today. Like there's discussions going on in my Discord about, does this make Jey Uso a top guy, or does this act, or if he doesn't become a top guy, does it lessen the draw of what the Rumble winner should be? Like there's lots of conversation. Look, we're wrestling fans. We're going to go into the into the weeds, shall we say? That term got got some popularity over the last couple weeks. But we're going to go into the weeds on all of this stuff, and it's just fascinating to see what comes out of it. I have no idea what's in Triple H's head about where he believes Jey Uso is going to be in a month. Though I will say, and I wanted to ask you about this too. Let's say Jey Uso is winning the world title. He's got to close one of the nights, right?
I mean, does he? Yeah. How big is the women's match going to be? Because right now, Charlotte is, that was not a good response for a babyface.
No.
That one. I guess
felt
he
so
would
bad
have to
for
close
her.
night 1. I know, me too. I did feel bad for her. I don't know. I don't know if they close. Unless you got, if Becky Lynch comes back and challenges Rhea Ripley for the title, or Tiffany Stratton, do you put that as the main on that show, or whatever Roman is doing? Would that be the main event on one of those shows? If you have a triple threat, I don't know. I'm throwing an idea. Triple threat match between Punk, Punk and Rollins and Roman. Is that a closer? Is The Rock maybe going to do something? Does that close it? There's a lot of questions. I mean, we don't know.
So the reason why I say that is because I watched the opening to Raw last night. This dude walked to the ring. Crowd was going nuts doing the yeet stuff. Got in the ring. Crowd was still going crazy doing the yeet stuff. Song finished. They started it over again, and the crowd was going crazy doing the yeet stuff. This dude could barely get a word out. He almost like he forgot what he was going to say, or maybe he just went in there and was going to shoot from the hip or whatever. Well, I don't think it was that, actually. But Like that was like the longest segment of nobody saying anything and the crowd being the entire entertainment. Yeah. And I think if he wins the title, it's going to be like that and even more. So if you have him open the show, you're going to have him win the title. The crowd goes nuts. People just going crazy with Yeet. And then you're going to go to a video package of of Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens' feud. I think you have to end the show with that amazing thing of, 60,000 people in Vegas in a stadium, all, going crazy with Yeet at the end of the show.
Yeah, you're right. You would have to end that. I mean, if he stays that hot, I think absolutely.
All right. Now that we got that, we'll come back to the Rumble because I'm still interested in other thoughts. But the F4W convention. So this is tied into WrestleMania because we're having the convention. Now I'm putting you on the spot. Are you coming to this thing?
I am not.
You are.
It's Easter. It's Easter. I'm not.
Oh, no. You're right. It is Easter. I forgot about that part of it.
There's no way I could say, hey, sorry, everybody. I'm hosting this holiday, but I won't be here.
What if you come in like Thursday, Friday, and then you take the Zarian family jet on Saturday evening to get back home in time for Easter?
I do the Irish goodbye. I just don't go to the wrestling shows. I just come and hang out in Vegas for Thursday and Friday. I'm kind of into that. That could kind of work.
Well, so my hope is that I can actually do some audio from Vegas because I think we're getting a place where we can actually have some audio equipment. So I'm hoping to do some
nice
video pods from Vegas. And if you were going to be there, then it would have been awesome because then we could have done them. But oh well, at some point we will be at a show together again. But I wanted to mention to folks that if you go to f4wonline.com/Vegas, you can see all of the shows that we're doing, the meet and greet, the Q&A, the sweet party, the Brazilian Texas Day Brazil dinner, though they have gone, they've put NXT head to head with Texas Day Brazil. We booked it first, man. This is WWE doing their nonsense. They're trying to they're trying to do to us what they're doing to AEW. They're trying to get people out of the Texas Day Brazil dinner. So anyway, I know Dave and Brian, they're doing their show out of the Palms, and then there's going to be sweet parties and hangouts and wrestling viewing parties and after parties and everything. So check out that link, and you can. If you're going to join us, you should come out. I will be there. I'm thinking Thursday, Friday, Saturday. I'm going to try and get a credential. If I can get a credential for Mania, I'll go to Mania. If I can't, I'll watch it with some peeps. But then I think I'm probably going to go home Sunday morning. That's a long weekend, man.
That is a long weekend because it does, and it's Vegas, so that's a very long weekend.
Yeah. Usually my Vegas is like 2.5 days and I'm out. That's about as much as I can take. Yeah. So that's around that time. My main thing is I just want to make Wale Mania this year. Wale Mania looks like so much fun. And I was at the very first one. I was actually at the first and the second one. But I think it's under new direction.
That's the one that Dave
took
a shot. Is that the one?
That was I think that was in New York or New Orleans. Where they took shots with Wale. But I mean, I put up some photos the other day of the very first one, and it was Rey Mysterio was there, Conan was there, Scott Hall was there, JR was there, so got to kind of hang out with everybody. My favorite moment is what is Mick Foley's daughter? What is her name?
Noelle
Foley. My buddy was a big fan of Noelle Foley, and he wanted me to take a picture with her. So she was like, "Great, I'll take a picture." So he gets, he kind of goes over, gives me his camera, and I'm about to take the picture, and none other than Frank the Clown photobombs the photo. But I'm too slick for Frank to clown, because all I did was I moved the camera slightly, and he was not in that photo. By the way, I have no beef with Frank the Clown. I don't even know him. I just thought it was interesting that he decided to jump in the picture. Okay, so back to Royal Rumble. You mentioned Charlotte. I thought going into the match, either her or Becky should have won as a surprise. Becky was not there, and I think poor Nikki Bella's pop would have been a little bit louder if they didn't think that there was still a shot that Becky was going to be at number 30. Yeah. But she was not. And thus, based on the people who were in that match, Charlotte was probably the correct winner, though what we saw on Monday on Raw was not really unexpected to me. I thought it was going to be a little rough for her, and it was more rough than I thought it was going to be. What did you think about her winning, and what did you think about her Monday promo?
It said the Women's Rumble was interesting because it was first of all, nobody knows the themes for the women. The men, it's atrocious too, but nobody knows the themes. But who have they positioned in that company right now to have won? Right? Like, Tiffany would have been it if she didn't have the Money in the Bank, but she did get the Money in the Bank and she won the title. Rhea already got the title from Liv. Do you go back to Liv? Does Bayley win?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I don't think they've done a good job at telling you who the main contenders are for the titles. If you look at it, it's Nia, right? It was Nia. It's Tiffany. It's, now Charlotte, obviously, because she's back. But they really didn't create this who could win like you had with the men. Punk.
Right.
Who could win? Punk. Seth. Drew, anybody. I mean, it was endless, the amount of people on the men's side, and it was so heavy towards the second half. But on the women's side, you kind of were left with, well, if Becky comes back, then she could win. If Charlotte comes back, she could win. And they announced Charlotte already, so everybody kind of anticipated that if Becky wasn't in. Did you feel that way too? Who else has that company told you that is a major contender for the World Championship for the women?
Nobody, really. The thing that I was most excited about when it came to the Women's Rumble was I wanted to see the NXT, who was going to come out from NXT. I thought Roxanne was amazing in that match. I popped maybe the loudest when I knew that my girl Jada Parker was in it. That was fun. Lash Legend, that was a lot of fun. I guess it would be Bianca if Bianca wasn't tied up in this tag team stuff with Naomi. And eventually, I think we're assuming Jade, though Jade also did not come back on Monday. Or on
Jade did not
Saturday.
come back. But you know what would have been a great swerve, bro? Swerve. If you had Jordan Grace win.
That would have been interesting, for sure.
I mean, that would have been... I can't find an argument for her not to. And what a way to come in. Like, dominant female professional wrestler. TNA champion, comes in, wins the Rumble second time because she had such a great showing the first time. Second time she comes in, she figured it out. She won. Who does she challenge? Rhea Ripley.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
It would have been good.
They could have done the Triple H pose off. The Triple H Scott Steiner pose off. I'm not even kidding. I already booked this in my head.
Okay, who had the better physique, Jordan or Ivy Nile? Because Ivy was jacked in that match.
Ivy was jacked too. Yeah, jacked.
Yeah, I think your was it your grandfather who was the bodybuilder?
My grandfather was a bodybuilder. Yeah,
yeah, that's what he would have been like. I'm not sure about these other women, but that Ivy Nile and that Jordan Grace, I like them.
You know what? He would have been very impressed by Jordan's legs.
Yeah.
That was his thing. He didn't have great legs. And if he saw great legs, he would constantly talk about the great legs. Look at I'm telling you, Thanksgiving, he used to make me flex my legs at Thanksgiving every year. I swear to you, this is not even a joke. My calf muscle was discussed. I have a great calf. So I always gravitate towards the legs. You could do the upper body, but the legs people skip. Jordan has great legs. Jacked, crazy, jacked legs.
I would have probably pivoted on the Bianca and Naomi tag thing to get Bianca back into the singles stuff, because I think the fan, we just talked about, Jey Uso's a bit of a people's champion here and the fan favorite. The match that audience wants to see is Rhea and Bianca. And it doesn't look like we're getting it. And maybe that's going to be pushed off till next year. Maybe the whole vehicle for next year is getting to that match. But I would have pivoted to that and made it Rhea, Bianca, and Charlotte and Tiffany Stratton.
Yeah, I mean they could have gone there. So what are we going to get? Who's facing Rhea now?
Good question. I would still rather see Rhea and Charlotte because they had a fantastic match at WrestleMania 39. This is mostly my bad, but I keep forgetting that Tiffany has one of the two main belts. I keep thinking she's got the Intercontinental Women's title.
Yeah,
it's not.
She has a world title.
She's got the world title, but for whatever reason in my mind, she's not at that level yet. And I think she's really good, especially for her level of experience. But it doesn't feel like they've made her one of the top 3 or 4 women yet. And maybe that's coming. Maybe there's a big push for her that is still coming to where they cement her. But in my eyes, I just keep forgetting. So, I'm not even sure if I'm into Charlotte and Tiffy, though I think they'll be able to do some really cool spots, and they'll probably have a really good match. I'm way more into Rhea and Charlotte, especially after that promo, because once I realized that Rhea was coming out, I was like, man, they couldn't have hit her music earlier and saved Charlotte's rear end a little bit, because once Rhea came out, then everything was fine and the fans were into
Rhea's
it. But
not going to get booed in that program.
No, not at all. So Charlotte's got to be the heel.
Charlotte has to be the heel. So maybe this worked out. If that's the direction they're going, I think it's no harm, no foul. Look how ungrateful you people are. I came back for you, and look how ungrateful you are. That would be the story that Charlotte would tell. And she's naturally, people want to boo her.
She doesn't have babyface charisma necessarily.
No. But you know what? Her father was a world-class heel, and even when he was a good guy, he was still a bad guy. So you could do that with her. Just keep her a heel.
The one person we did not mention who could be a little bit of the surprise woman who comes back into a big spot is Asuka. I thought maybe we were going to see her in the Rumble too, but we did not. So there's still the possibility of her coming out, whether it would be against Rhea or Tiffany, I don't know. But that's the only other one I can think of. A lot of people want to see Bayley in that spot, and Bayley's great.
That was the other one, yeah.
She's going to be in the NBA Celebrity All-Star Game.
I just saw that she's going to be there. It's on ESPN, right?
So they're here this year for the All-Star Game. So I think the Celebrity Game, I'm not sure if it's going to be in Oakland or San Francisco, but they're going to do the Celebrity Game on Friday, and then the Slam Dunk and stuff is going to be on Saturday, and then the All-Star Game's on Sunday. I will be out in San Francisco on Saturday doing stuff. Just kind of, I'm not going to the actual Slam Dunk contest. I don't have like $3,000 to spend on a ticket. But
is that how much it is now?
The last I looked, it was like there was one ticket that I could get for under $1,000, and then the rest of them were like over $3,000. I haven't looked since then because it was kind of a turnoff. But maybe the tickets go down at some point. But that Friday Celebrity Game, if I could get in as a, I don't know if I could get in as media. I don't think
media?
So. They're still going to be crazy.
Do you know
media.
who I work for?
Well,
you know what Dave Meltzer is?
Bayley would have to vouch for us, right? She'd have to go, oh, no, I know that, those guys are fine.
Yeah.
They can come.
Yeah.
But that would be kind of fun because, I think The Miz played one year, but Bayley played high school basketball out here. She went to Independence High School, which is not far away from where I went to high school. We're kind of in the same league. Obviously, she's several years behind me. But yeah, she played hoop, and she just did a video a couple weeks ago where she was had a basketball and was like, there's like I'm guessing it's like her nephew or something. She was like bulldozing her nephew. So that's fun. Like stuff like that is great. I just hope she doesn't hurt her knee, just in the process of going a little too hard. Yeah,
she'll be okay.
All right, let's change gears a little bit. AEW, since we last talked, we were kind of the idea of maybe Kenny Omega is the babyface hero that we've been waiting for, and maybe the return of Kenny Omega is going to be the thing that kind of kicks AEW creative into gear. He's back. He and Will Ospreay are together. I have christened them the Omega Powers. What do you think about Kenny's return so far?
I've been okay with it. I'm curious what they do with it moving forward. I'm more concerned for their world title positioning on how that's going to go. I think he's okay. The story that they will eventually tell is Okada and him at All In, and they have till July to get there. They're going to have to start putting pieces together after this pay-per-view. Well, after Grand Slam, and then you got the pay-per-view. But I've been okay. I know that. And by the way, that Grand Slam situation is such a nightmare. What a disaster.
Oh, gosh. I feel bad for them, but at the same time, I'm just like, how is there not more foresight? Maybe there's issues with Warner Brothers and what they wanted to do with it. Okay.
Utter miscommunication. When I spoke to people at WBD, I brought up the All-Star Weekend. And I was like, it's the All-Star Weekend that weekend too. So what are you guys doing? And he's like, oh, it's going on when Collision's on. I go, 8 p.m. East? Yeah. I said, on what channel? TNT. I go, you sure? And it was honestly, it was an utter oversight, right? And then they tried to correct this, like, oh, where do we put it? What do we do? When does it go on? And they determined that the best for viewership and first-time viewership would be right after that All-Star game. And they ran that. Do you remember when they ran that a couple of years ago? They did this, and they went on after a game, and it was Chris Jericho that opened it, and they just destroyed Chris Jericho on social media. Because some of these people hadn't seen him in like 10 years.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. Is this the audience you want? I mean, who are you popping the rating for? It's also, it kind of sucks, right? Because now that show would have taken place like a full day ago.
Yeah, that's my issue with it. That's my clear issue with this show is if we are going to take AEW seriously, even WWE is running their international PLEs at like noon my time, but at least I know that they're treating it like a real sport and that it's on live, because who wants to watch something on an 8-hour delay? But this is like a 20-hour delay. And I understand they are programming for the network. If this is what they want to do, AEW has sort of become the interchangeable utility player rather than the destination for them.
Yeah.
But we have this other thing. It's called Max, and we're trying to drive eyeballs to Max. If we put this thing on Max live and people could just turn it on when they wanted on Saturday morning when they wake up and they have breakfast, at least it's kind of what we do with the New Japan stuff, right? We kind of wake up and then we stay off of social media and we watch it.
If you simulcast it at the 10:30 time, that I don't know how much that rating is going to be affected anyway, because it's still going to bring in a new audience. So I agree with you. It should be simulcasted on Max. I know the time difference is a major problem, but again, Saturday morning, everybody's tuning in, and I would watch it on Saturday morning.
Yeah, I totally would. And it would be more exciting to me watching it on Saturday morning, knowing that I am in control and I can sort of figure out if I want to get spoiled or if I want to just watch the thing, the 2 hours or whatever it is and get through it. But now you're telling me as a viewer that I have to figure out how to stay off of spoilers for 20 hours to not get spoiled for this television show. And I know Dave brought up the other day. He's like, well, what about Collision Thursday night? I'm like, Dave, I'm not watching Collision on most occasions live anyways. Like, it's not that big of a thing to watch Collision normally. But if you're going to put on Kenny Omega and Will Ospreay as a tag team, and you're going to give me a world title match, at least what we think is if John Moxley's going to be facing whomever, because I think did they set up Revolution? They didn't set up Moxley for a Grand Slam.
They set up
right?
Revolution. Yeah.
So be it. I want to watch that match because you're telling me it's bigger than a normal Collision, rather than the normal Collision that I basically make room for if I have time for it. So it's not an apples to apples comparison to me. They've been promoting Grand Slam for how many months now without telling us what it is. And then you're just going to shoehorn it in on a 20-hour delay, which to me makes the show less important, which I don't think that should be the plan.
And it should have been. It should have been important.
I mean, imagine if you bought a ticket.
Thinking I'm going to a stadium show and now I'm in an arena and I'm just getting a Collision. Yeah, I'd be annoyed.
You're going to a stadium show that you assume the possibility is going to be like pay-per-view quality, and then mum's the word on everything, and they move you out of the stadium, mum's the word again on what kind of show you're getting, and then they go, oh, by the way, this is just Grand Slam Collision.
Yeah, it's a lot of omission of information, not purposely. Maybe they didn't have it, and I think it led to people speculating. I mean, I know what the original idea for this was, and this is not it. And they've pivoted, and I think they've pivoted the best that they can. I don't think.
Do you think this is really the best? You throwing your marketing hat on. Is this the best they could have done?
In this very unique situation, yeah, I think so. I think I think they I mean, listen, they could always do better, and they could always promote better, and they could do, communicate better, but I think this was when the rug gets pulled under you and you thought that you're going to be in a stadium, and whoever, I don't know if they were promised, who's the promoter? Who's the local promoter helping put this together? Obviously they're in Brisbane. They could have been in Sydney. They could have been in Melbourne. They're not.
Does Jim Barnett have any kinfolk who are still in wrestling? Maybe it's them.
Yeah, I don't know. Is Jim Barnett promoting this? I think little by little everything got taken away, and then when you realize you're not even airing this live, and that makes zero sense to me. Why it's not live on Max? Maybe they could still do this, but just very strange considering how strong communication between WBD and AEW is. I found this to be a weird hiccup early on in this new contract. Yeah. What's on True TV? Why not put it on True TV?
I don't know.
Maybe
wonder
Turner
if they
doesn't
just
want to go against compete.
Yeah, well, yeah, he doesn't. I think my guess is, let's say they wanted to put Collision on live on the normal time on the East Coast, which would be 8, and then that's 5 on the West Coast if you have that feed. You're still going heads up against the NBA All-Star Game, and I think they use True TV for alternative casts on for the All-Star Game stuff. So they may be doing that on True TV. But again, you have Max. You can do anything you want with Max. I think it'd be a great experiment, right? Like let's say you did want to hold off Grand Slam until after the All-Star Game on TNT. If you were to run it at, let's say, 5 and 8, on Max, you could actually see who are your hardest diehard wrestling fans who are watching
and how
on that
many
show.
of them are there? How many of them are there that are going to watch at 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning, or whatever time it is?
Yeah. So, interesting. I am, like I said, I'm going to be out that entire day. I'm going to go to some of the shoulder shows for the NBA that weekend. I know the Ringer is doing some stuff. I'm going to go check out their live podcast, and then we're just going to kind of bum around the city and figure out where to watch a lot of this stuff, unless someone drops some tickets on us or something. Yeah. So I'm going to be out pretty much that whole day, and then I'm going to come home, and then I'm going to have this decision to make. Do I want to watch AEW at late and tired, or do I wait until Sunday? And then if Sunday comes along, I still got NXT to watch, and then it could be a couple more days until I actually get to the show. But that's more of a wrestling content problem.
But Garrett,
I don't know, man.
Put it on in the afternoon. I don't know how much of. I mean, I they want that big crossover from the NBA, and let's see what it does. Do they get 650,000 viewers?
Well, they did one. What was it, like 3 weeks ago or 4 weeks ago, when college football had a big game right before Dynamite or Collision, and that was Collision's biggest number in a long time. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that number stayed decently. They kept a lot of the viewership from what I remember. So, I mean, there is a method to what they're doing there.
There is a method. No, there definitely is a method. I just don't know if it's the right one, and we'll find out.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Yeah.
All right. What do you think about? We'll switch back to WWE for a second. The John Cena storyline. We talked about John Cena in the open, and kind of how ironic it was that people were so frustrated to see him lose. I think I'll just say what my prediction. I thought Cena was going to win that match because I thought it was going to be so hard for the winner to not say Cody immediately. Jey was the only one who had that story that was like, oh, of course I'm going to pick Gunther. I promised that I was going to beat this guy. So that one made sense. But let's say CM Punk was going to win that Rumble. CM Punk is just going to say, I'm not facing Cody and I'm facing Gunther instead. No, that's ridiculous. The natural match would be to face Cody. Everyone should sort of target Cody. So that's why I thought Cena was going to win, so that he would just take Cody out of the whole scenario, lock it in, boom, we're ready for WrestleMania. A natural story is also him winning the Chamber, which I'm guessing he is going to do. Why does this dude get the free pass in the Chamber and all these other wrestlers have to wrestle these qualifying matches? What's going on here?
Nobody sees them. That's why.
The fix is in here, man. We're still fixing pro wrestling, which is already fixed, but the fix is even more in here for John Cena to not have to have a qualifying match.
Well, if I'm going to defend WWE booking here, John Cena negotiated this for his return. He negotiated he will be in that match and he will be in the Rumble. That he said it from day one. I'm going to be there for these matches. So he negotiated. He does have a great agent, and his agent was able to negotiate this.
He's like, either I'm in the Elimination Chamber or I'm going to immediately do Ricky Stenicki Part 2. Choose.
Yeah. I don't know. Does he win the Chamber? Does John Cena win and go on to challenge Cody and beats Cody and becomes 17-time world champion? I don't know.
I mean, those are two great stories to close both nights of WrestleMania. If one is Jey Uso and one is John Cena, babyface champions, probably both on the shorter term end. Now if you're WWE and you really want to experiment, you could experiment with Cody winning and breaking the hearts of the John Cena fans, as well as breaking the heart of John Cena. You saw how he reacted after he got kicked out of the Rumble. That dude was heartbroken.
Yeah.
You could have him lose, and then the story for the rest of the year is I have no pathway back, and then someone reminds him that they have this thing called the Money in the Bank. And then even if he loses that, someone reminds him like, oh, there's this King of the Ring in Saudi Arabia that you could actually win. So there are still pathways back, as if this dude, he already negotiated being in the Elimination Chamber. He can't just negotiate a title shot. That's where the story kind of falls.
I mean,
for me.
Why can't he just be like, hey, I want a title shot now, right? Like, why not?
It's best for business. That's what he said.
You need pomp and circumstance. I did like that discussion between Dave and Brian about how best for business doesn't matter anymore because the business is so hot. I thought that was interesting.
True.
Really good WOR. I highly recommend you guys check it out if you haven't already. I mean, it's going to be old news by the end of tonight, but I definitely suggest go looking at it. I don't know.
What do you think about the Rock discussion? What's up with Dwayne?
See, okay. If he is not doing something, what the hell was the point of him coming out at the end of that pay-per-view and holding that title belt? Just very strange, but he does what he wants to do, and that's always been the case with him. If whatever The Rock wants to do, they will do it. And now he's on the board, and he's married to them financially, so obviously they want to utilize him, and they want him on TV because that matters. Listen, Moana 2, it broke $1 billion. One of the most successful films ever. So for all that said,
he's back, though?
What? Does that mean he's back in Hollywood? I don't know. It's a weird place, He's one movie away from, being the king of those movies again. You don't throw a guy like The Rock away and say, oh, he's done after Black Adam. It is interesting how he did get a major negative PR blitz against them, huh? Who did he piss off?
Talking about piss, why does he mention that he just pees in bottles and leaves them for people to pick up? He thought that was cool.
I know. He's out of his mind. He's a freaking
I got it. Dwayne Johnson, John Cena, Ricky Stenicki Part 2. I'm there. People think I'm joking about Stenicki. Stenicki was funny. I like that movie. It's not a great movie, but it was just funny.
Yeah, I think Dwayne should be part of this for sure. And maybe that leads to something. Once in a Lifetime Part 3. Maybe that's both their send-off. We're going to see the third time?
That would be hilarious.
So what do you make of if Punk is not in the main event of WrestleMania 2 years in a row,
That's quite the story, right? And so they're telling a lot of these stories. So one is Punk's not in the main event of WrestleMania.
Or maybe maybe he will be.
And yeah, he could be. The second one is Sami Zayn will never win the world title. So they have these like long-term things that they could just sort of figure out when they want to pay them off at any point. And they're nice hooks to get you to care. And I think it's very smart. I don't know what CM Punk's future is. He seems very happy right now. He seems very like he believes he's being respected and he's he is a top guy and he's getting things that he was promised, all that. But there is probably going to be a point where maybe he disagrees with something and we could see, some frustration. So I would pay off all of the Punk stuff as quickly as possible. And then if he is still happy and he sticks around, then you do other stuff with him. But I don't know if I would test that one. I don't know if I would put all of those things into like next year or the year after, just go, we got all these great stories for Punk. At some point, he could just get mad at something, right? And just be gone.
I mean, that's assuming that he is the crazy person that people have said he is. I don't know. I think you gotta balance things out, and maybe they see it as like, listen, things are doing so good, we don't need to put the title on CM Punk. When we do, that's going to be a major story, and it'll be a focus point that it'll grow the audience and not just a random match. I get that. But you got a lot of moving parts right now. You got a lot of moving parts between Seth and Roman and Punk and Cena and Cody. You have a ton of moving parts, so they got to get a little organized here. Maybe some of it has to do with the fact that they're waiting to see what Dwayne wants to do, but I guess he's not wrestling this year because we would have been hearing rumblings already. It's February. He needs to be getting ready.
Yeah, it does now, based on what we saw at Rumble. It makes no sense for him to come out at that one show. And then the promo with Cody for the first Netflix show and him just making amends at that point also doesn't really make sense.
Well, it only makes sense if he's not going to do anything, right? That
yeah, if he's retiring, then it makes sense.
Yeah.
So I don't know. But I think he probably, that there was a point last year where he probably needed WWE a little bit to kind of get back in the good graces, and maybe this year, if you're right, Moana, he's just a voice actor in that movie. He's not actually pulling the marketing or anything. He does have the Mark Kerr movie coming out soon, the Smashing Machine, which I'm really
he's gonna look
interested in that one.
Me too. Actually, I'm very interested in that one because
he looks really weird in that movie, though.
Yeah. I don't know.
50 some odd year Dwayne playing a mid-20s or late 20s dude in Mark Kerr.
Well, and this is like peak Mark Kerr, right?
Yeah. And Rock has the body for it for sure, but
I mean, he has a body, but Mark Kerr is not a Samoan black man. There's going to be, they're not going to. He's not playing a role to look like him.
Yeah,
The Rock.
Yeah,
Mark.
exactly.
I want to see what this. I want to see what he looks like here. I mean, it's an A24 production. Actually, to be honest, he looks more like Ken Shamrock than Mark Kerr.
Interesting.
I'm going to send this to you, and you tell me.
Doesn't
he look a little bit more like Ken Shamrock there?
Yeah, I'll click on it. But have you seen the documentary of the Smashing Machine?
Yeah, one of my to be honest, that was I have not seen it in like 20 years, but when that thing came out, it was incredible to see. It really was a behind the scene expose because really it was about the two Marks, right? Mark Kerr and Mark Coleman. Those were the two peak people in that, and one lived a clean life and the other one did not. For the most part.
That was a sad movie as well.
Very sad when the girlfriend is like, okay, you could have a pill now and a pill later, right? Wasn't that part of it? I have not seen that thing in like 20 something years, but I remember watching it again. I was like, oh my God. You know what? We should do that. We should watch it and talk about it again.
What now that we're on the movie kick? What do you think about the Queen of the Ring, the Mildred Burke movie?
Oh, I don't know. What do you? I've not seen much about it.
So I bought the book, which I didn't have it, but it had kind of been on my list, and I was like, oh, the movie's coming out. I'll just start reading it. And so I'm reading the book now, but the story is very interesting. Like Mildred Burke is a absolute pioneer in women's wrestling, and her history and her childhood, and her getting into the people that she got into it with, and how she embraced all that stuff is really interesting. I don't know how much of that they're going to tell, but you have people like Toni Storm is in that movie. Camille is in that movie. She might be in that movie longer than she was in AEW.
Jim Cornette's in that movie, and he's playing Sam Mushnick.
There's a Vince Senior in that movie, I think, too, right?
Yeah.
Wild.
Francesca Eastwood is Mae Young. Let's see who else. Who's Tony playing? Toni Storm. I can't find it. I'll find it later. I'm interested, and the success that we saw with Iron Claw, I think maybe they're going to tap into that a little bit, and this could be something positive. When is it coming out?
I was thinking spring, but I wouldn't bet on it if on my memory. I was thinking like maybe April or something like that.
Yeah.
All right, let's. We got a couple minutes here to finish off this one. WrestleMania. One of the fun things about the Royal Rumble is seeing if you could piece together things for WrestleMania. Do you think they're really leading into a Roman, Seth, and Punk feud? Or is it going to be Roman and Seth, and then Punk gets interrupted by someone like Logan Paul, but then it looks like they've set up Logan Paul and AJ Styles? Like, there's some interesting pieces. I'm just not exactly sure what the right answer is to all that stuff.
Yeah, I do think Logan Paul and AJ would be interesting. Does Paul need to be in the Elimination Chamber match? Does CM Punk cost him that match? I think he should be in that match for sure.
It'll be fun because he'll do crazy stuff.
I do. You know what I do want to see? I want to see Punk and AJ Styles in a match.
That'll be good.
I mean, we've gotten that once, I think, right?
Punk and Sami Zayn yesterday was really good.
And that's a match that never happened. I don't think that match has ever happened. CM Punk El Generico?
The spot where Sammy went for the kick and he missed the kick, and then Punk went for the GTS and then didn't get it. I thought that stuff was brilliant. I was kind of like, it's one of those things where you kind of know where things are going just because you've watched so much wrestling. And every once in a while, you kind of get surprised, and you're like, "Oh, is this thing actually gonna?" And then no, it doesn't. But it got me out of my seat for a second.
Yeah, I thought it would. I really enjoyed that match. They did a great job. CM Punk looked good too. It gets a little worrisome with him, but he looked really good.
Yeah, not as worrisome though as when Cena is in there. I'm worried this guy's gonna like blow out a hamstring or something just by walking to the ring. He seems. Even though he looks like he's in fantastic shape,
dude, he walks like a fucking robot. He moves like a robot.
Yeah, he's never been the greatest athlete. So I just am so worried that something's going to happen to him. But I'm crossing my fingers. We got a whole year, so I'm hopeful that he stays healthy the whole year because it'll be fun. It'll be a fun ride with him.
Yeah,
a nice way to say goodbye to John Cena. So I'm hopeful that he's going to be fine. All right,
we'll get Cena Punk again. That'll be something that we're going to get this year. For sure.
Yeah.
We're gonna get all of it. We'll get all those matches, and I'll have it in the archives. And they got to produce specials, and this is a great year in the making. I'm sure they're documenting this whole thing.
Do we get another Randy Orton match 47 times in my lifetime?
Yeah, I want to see that. I also want to see Punk and Orton. You have an opportunity to do these matches now, and. Mm-hmm. Listen, you want to talk about big matches. I said this on one of the other shows. They're like, why would they give that away if it doesn't make sense? I'm like, 2002 WWE is very underrated because of how bad that Invasion storyline happened, and you split the rosters in 2002. We got Kurt Hennig was back. You got Ric Flair versus Hulk Hogan on a Monday Night Raw for the title. Obviously, it was like I forgot who interrupted in that finish, but you got some wacky matches. I think you got to take that chance and do it. You got to do all these matches, get it out of the way, because you don't know. I said that in AEW for CM Punk. You don't know where this is going, so get those matches. Will we ever see a Bryan Danielson CM Punk match again? Probably not. And that's a tremendously large missed opportunity to provide to the fans.
Mm-hmm. Agree. All right, man. What are you and Rich back for Matman this weekend?
We are back from Matman. He did not join me today on Beyond the Bell, so we're back on Matman on Friday.
He had to miss, huh?
He had to miss. I don't know. He partied too much last night, maybe. That's what I think.
He was too busy yeeting, watching Raw, and just went overboard.
He was
yeeting. Cool. Yeah. So, like I said at the last show, our show is just going to be sort of based on how busy our day jobs are. But whenever we can, we will get back on Tuesdays and do our thing. So appreciate y'all being here, watching and listening. So for Andrew Zarian, for producer John, I am Double G. We will see you when we see you. Peace.